what I thought was kind of interesting is that during the height of the speakership, not only the vote, but then in the immediate aftermath, the White House was really pushing the economic message. They sort of rolled out their new sort of program to try and control drug prices, as well as announcing another $9 billion in student debt cancellation. Whether that's good policy is up in the air, but I think it's sort of, it puts in the sort of dots the I's and crosses the T's in terms of, they're actually delivering for the American people, whereas Republicans can't figure out who leads themselves.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by White House reporter Naomi Lim. Naomi, President Biden is trying to draw this contrast with Republicans on Capitol Hill, Biden versus chaos. Lay out for us a little bit about what that might mean.
I mean, this is a long-running narrative that the White House is trying to push. They've always sort of said that they're the grown-ups in the room. We sort of saw that with the debt ceiling fight, where President Biden sort of refused to negotiate until the very last minute. Eventually, they did negotiate. Then we saw that with the government shutdown. Eventually, actually, this time it was former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy who went on to deal with Democrats to keep the government open. But now with this speakership fight to figure out who is going to replace McCarthy on Capitol Hill, I think the White House is sort of trying to walk this really fine line of, again, being those adults in the room, but quietly sort of thinking that this works out politically for them because, again, they sort of look like they're in control, they know what they're doing, and it sort of is like this perfect personification of this messaging push that they've put out in recent weeks, where it's sort of this split screen of what, of their great policies that are helping the middle class in comparison to House Republicans that want to cut spending and things like that. And it was sort of like this crazy thing where they almost sort of brought it into fruition with this sort of very messy speakership fight that we're about to see unfold. And what I thought was kind of interesting is that during the height of the speakership, not only the vote, but then in the immediate aftermath, the White House was really pushing the economic message. They sort of rolled out their new sort of program to try and control drug prices, as well as announcing another $9 billion in student debt cancellation. Whether that's good policy is up in the air, but I think it's sort of, it puts in the sort of dots the I's and crosses the T's in terms of, they're actually delivering for the American people, whereas Republicans can't figure out who leads themselves. Right,
so they're trying to show that they can govern and make policy while Republicans are still trying to figure out how to do the just basics of operating the House.
Exactly, but then they have to sort of try not to be too gleeful about it. I mean, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was literally asked, is there anybody in the West Wing that is sort of happy to see that the one little element of government that Republicans do control at the moment is ungovernable, not only because of the members of their conference, but just that they haven't got a leader. And she sort of said, no, nobody's happy about this. Our job is to deliver for the American people. It is to meet challenges that we face. And, we're doing that job. It's time for Republicans to do it as well.
And of course, there is some risk if you do have things like a government shutdown that some people will blame the White House, either in conjunction with congressional Republicans or on their own.
Yeah, that is true. Because it's obviously sort of the reason we're in this debacle is because there's disagreement over how the White House and the administration wants to spend government money. I think it's interesting that they sort of don't want to sort of weigh into the speakership race per se. They're not trying to comment on the declared candidates. That there might be more candidates that come out, but they're sort of trying to keep a distance from it because they know that they have big fights coming, with Ukraine funding, for example, and as you sort of said, a government shutdown where they try to maybe not poison that political well, which we kind of saw with McCarthy. McCarthy had a relationship with Biden. They knew each other when he was a vice president and when he was in the House. Actually, when one of their first meetings was about Ukraine. But I think they're trying to keep things sort of level-headed, particularly with someone like Jim Jordan, who is leading an investigation into the president's son.
Right, that's right. So, but one area where the White House has tried to be out front and the president is going to give a big talk, is planning to give a major speech, is Ukraine. And they're trying to keep the Ukraine funding on track with really new doubts about whether that will be possible in the House.
And this is really tricky for Biden, not only domestically, because It's a priority for him, but also on the world stage. This is the thing that he kind of really came into his own, trying to. After Afghanistan, Ukraine was something that sort of restored his reputation internationally, and to have to convene a call of the group of 7 leaders earlier this week to try and calm sort of fears and doubts about the U.S. commitment to this into this conflict is something that sort of undermined him internationally, so big picture. But then coming back domestically, it is of course like a huge priority for him. He did that thing which he usually does, is where he kind of teases something and previews something before the staff are really ready.
Sure.
But he sort of did say that he wants to do this speech about how it's in the U.S. interest to remain engaged with this conflict, to support Ukraine, not only because of Russia, but what it kind of means maybe for a China-Taiwan potential conflict in the Indo-Pacific theater. I think that it sort of remains to be seen how politically potent a speech Biden can deliver, if that will change hearts and minds. Not only is that sort of disputable, but even just the way that Biden gives speeches, it's not as powerful as maybe somebody like one of his predecessors doing something similar. But we'll see. They've been very scant on details.
Sure.
But we can imagine that would come up in the next couple of weeks.
So Commander may not live in the White House anymore, but Biden is still Commander-in-Chief.
Exactly, that's what they're hoping.
Thank you, Naomi. You can read Naomi and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.